that's in every aspect of everybody's life. You know what I mean? The struggle of, let's start from the beginning. Like, you know, talk about environments where kids are raised. You know, my mom was, you know, doing everything she could, working her ass off.
Growing up in Chicago.
Growing up in the south side of Chicago. And my father wasn't, you know, God rest his soul, but he wasn't necessarily helpful. You know what I'm saying? Drugs, just like being on them as well. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to sell them. But were you on that too at the same time?
Never get high on your own supply.
Yeah. I was like, bruh. So the environment that he had us in our house wasn't always like safe for the kids, and my mom she did everything she could, and we got out of that environment. But you wouldn't imagine that somebody could, you know, could make it out of that situation or that circumstance, and because a lot of the kids from the South Side like didn't, you know. Shout out to my grade, eighth, you know, the people that graduated 8th grade with me. You like they crushing it. Like we you know, you can see generations, you know, learning more and doing better than what has been given to them in their environment. So shout out to them. And it was interesting just, you know, not having an example of of where to go. Southside Chicago, we all thought we was going to be Michael Jordan.
Absolutely.
That was it. Like,
Absolutely.
you know, everybody wanted to play ball. Everybody wanted to.
Not LeBron James?
He was a year younger than me. What you want me to do?
I'm just saying.
He was a year younger than me.
But if he was really the GOAT, you would have wanted to be like him before he became him.
No. That's not how life works.
Sometimes
This ain't Interstellar. I can't go back in the past and start thinking about this. I can't be younger than my daughter. What are you talking about? But LeBron is the GOAT. We'll get back to that.
We're definitely going to get back to that.
We'll get back to that. But I think it's interesting because we didn't have those examples, and so for me, it was my mom. It was my mom in the church, really pushing positivity and really pushing faith and really pushing just keeping your imagination open to things that seem impossible. My mom moved us from the South Side to the Burbs, and that was a different type of struggle just because I was a fish out of water. You know what I mean? You go from the South Side of Chicago to like predominantly white school where things that you are used to and accustomed to don't exist. At all. The way you think is different. You know what I mean? Bro, it was a wild moment when I was in the locker room putting on lotion and everybody was looking at me like I was in a zoo. Everybody was like, Morris, what are you doing? Putting on lotion. They were like, what are you, a girl or something?
Is that Jergens?
Yeah, everybody had cocoa butter. Everybody was so confused. And I was like, y'all don't get
ashy?
People were so confused, boy. By the end of the year, everybody was in there.
Yeah, lotion it up.
Oh, this is great.
For no reason.
For no
I feel
reason.
so moisturized.
Yeah, Tim in the corner just moisturizing himself. He was doing it on a different level. We was like, Tim, at this point, you're just masturbating. Why are you doing this to yourself? You know. So yeah, I just remember going through that. But it was in that moment that I saw all these kids that had these different aspirations. And they knew, like, kids wanted to be doctors, lawyers, scientists. They wanted to be athletes. They wanted to be all these different things. And I was like, man, like, I could do that.
Exactly, because growing up where you grew up from, I can't speak to it because I didn't grow up there, but I know growing up where I grew up, you don't necessarily see those things until those things are shown.
Exactly.
Like, your biggest question every day was, all right, which route am I going to take to school?
Yeah.
Because I know this neighborhood and this neighborhood aren't getting along, or things of that nature. And then you come into a place and you're like, you guys don't have a route to get home from school, or y'all don't have to call and check in to make sure that you got where you're supposed to be. So I know it is a culture shock, and the beauty of that culture shock sometimes is that it forces you to see possibilities that might not have been in front of you before.
No, 100%. And so I fell in love with it, to be honest with you. It was like, I finally was able to see, and some kids could see it. Some kids have that. I couldn't see it until we moved, where I could see what was happening. I could see, like, and funny enough, it wasn't until I moved to the Burbs that I realized I wasn't as good at basketball as I thought.
It took that long?
Bro, I was hooping. I was hooping up until like 8th, 9th grade. Bro, I got to the Burbs and I was like, these kids are running full plays. This is
not run to the basket and catch the ball.
No, these kids are throwing alley-oops to each other. I said, nigga, we still... We're still children. So how did you do that?
So when did you realize that you were hilarious?
You know what's interesting? I felt like that I didn't put it into perspective until later. When I was at church, when I was younger, I used to get in trouble for goofing off all the time.
I believe it.
But I would make the old people laugh. And they would just kind of let me do it. My mom wouldn't. My mom would always pinch me or like pull me back or like, girl. She would give me that. But then it was a lady named Sister Poole who once looked at my mom and was like, Gwen, you need to stop. You know, you was like that too when you was younger.
Oh, to put mom in check.
Bruh. I was like, wait, what? My mama tell jokes? My mama is weird.
My mom was funny?
Exactly. and then I was like, oh man, I got the green light, bro. I used to go off in church. And then they asked me to be in the church play. Where I had to do an impersonation of the preacher. I had to play him in the play and killed it. Everybody was like, you should be an actor, you should be an actor. And I didn't know what that meant. I was like, oh, I should, huh? Wait, what does that mean? Bro, went to high school, didn't make the basketball team. I was like, what am I gonna do with all my time? Because prior to this, it was basketball before school, during school, after school. And I was like, hold on, I ain't about to waste no more of my time. I'm like, what am I gonna do? And so I started taking speech classes and like radio and TV classes and acting classes. Anything.
So you definitely were in the school in the burbs at that time. Then.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Because they didn't have that.
Absolutely.
Because they didn't have that, or that they didn't have that at all.
No.
You know. And so when I got there, I started taking those classes, and it like my whole world lit up, bro. Like it became evident to me. Like, man, this is what I want to do, and I'm glad I didn't know how hard it was at first. Because I didn't approach it with this mindset that it's a difficult task. I just approached it like, I'm just going to do it until and like forever. Like I didn't know if I wanted to be a TV actor or a movie actor.
Just know you wanted to act.
Yeah, in fact, I wanted to teach. I wanted to teach improv and comedy. And so I started.
One of the biggest improv
places
groups is in Chicago, right?
Yeah, Second City. So I was like, oh, I got all the resources here. You know what I mean? I just remember being sent to detention all the time for goofing off, roasting people. And I had one teacher, Mr. Dobez, math teacher, was super cool. He would let me do bits. But he was like, if you do it, though, I am going to send you to detention. So before we start class, he's like,
I'm going to let you commit the crime.
Yeah.
But I'm going to send you to jail.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to stop you. And he'll be sitting there laughing. He'd be sitting there just laughing.
Just
And he'd be like, you know where to go. And I'd be like, all right. And I would leave. And I remember one time I was in detention, this woman, she looked at me and she was like, you know, you're in here all the time. She was like, have you thought about what you want to do after high school? I was like, yeah, kind of. I think I want to act. I don't know. And that's when she gave me the pamphlet for Second City.
Okay.
So then I ended up going to Second City. I ended up going to a college that was across the street from my apartment. It's a community college called College of DuPage. Couldn't have been a better gift because they have some of the best acting teachers in the world there. The best acting theater program, in my opinion. It was like, I mean, every kid there was on top of their I got a scholarship there. I ended up getting the Chris Farley Memorial Second City Scholarship. So I didn't have to pay for school. And I was like, yo, this is great. I literally walked to school. I'm not joking. When I say across the street, open the blinds, the school's right there. So it wasn't no
big production. Like you just it was laid out for you.
It was laid out for me, and I was like, sometimes we overcomplicate stuff. And I was gonna go all the way downtown to Columbia and do the whole thing, and I started there, and then I was like, this is too much commute. I was like, I need my mind to be clear. I need to go across the street and learn how to act. Let me get rid of all the middle stuff. Learn how to act. So I did that, and then from there, bro, I was doing Second City simultaneously. I had this woman named Deanna Griffin. Deanna came to me and was like, she came to a play and was like, hey, we're starting this new program at Second City called Brown Co. So Second City has touring companies. You're on red team, green team, blue, whatever. You get sent all over to do shows, perform, you know, get your chops up, whatever. Brown Co. was because they had a very low population of black and brown folks in the audiences, and they were like, why we ain't got no...
Hence the name.
Yeah. They were like, why we ain't got no black people in the audience? It's like, because you ain't got no black people on stage. You know, so they started like grooming like some of the younger like performers to be like, hey, come to Second City. Because a lot of cats would just go to New York. Like that was it. If you're funny, they just like, go to New York. But it was like, in order to stay in Chicago, like, here's what we can do for you. We can put you on this stage and that stage. Bro, the rest was history. Once I got there, she kind of guided me, her and this guy named David Pompey. They kind of guided me on the business. It was just like, this is how you do this. This is how you do that. Every step. This is how you get a headshot. Here's 4 photographers. Call one of them. You ain't got the money? Figure it out.
For sure.
This is part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like, I remember it was $380 to get some headshots, right? I was like, damn, I don't know how to make this money because I was waiting tables and I was making like $20, $30
So you
a
were
shift.
the typical actor.
Yeah.
You were the prototype actor waiting tables to pay for acting.
Bro, that's how it was. Like, I was just following the blueprint. Like, this is what you do, right? You work to get to that, but how do you get to that? You gotta go make some money. How do I make some money? You know, bro, I just immediately I started calling homies like, hey man, can I borrow $20? Can I borrow this? I had one buddy, my boy Pete. Shout out to Pete. Pete hit me up. It was like, oh, I got you. He gave me the money for the headshot. He just paid for the headshot. I was like, bro, I owe you. And until this day, still one of my best friends in the world. Like, and you need people like that.
You absolutely need people like that. You need people to believe in you as much as you believe in yourself.
Right.
Because that's the only way to succeed.
Right. 100%. People think they can go at it alone and like you can do all these things by it. Bro, I can't count how many people helped me get to where I'm at. Like it's, you know, everybody. Well, you know how we came up. Like people who act that way and act like they did it by themselves are liars. They're liars.
And they don't usually get that far.
Exactly. It's almost like when you say, "I'll see you on your way down."
Exactly.
Like I will, and you know. But I credit all of my success to other people, to my talent as well. But it's other people who kind of allowed me to be myself and allowed me to thrive and to give me that support and to push me to those places that I needed to go.